Hey, if you like these videos, take a screenshot for us. Tag me on Instagram. Look forward to seeing it. Most of you guys know me. I'm part of the Crescent City Halo. I spent 17 years as a tactical medic with the fire department as a firefighter paramedic. And I ran those years on a SWAT team as with the door kickers. So the other night kind of clicked that switch that I really, most importantly, I cared about my family. And since we're all not all together, what happens if stuff goes south? And in today's world, I wish to God I didn't have to worry about and do this class. But in the atmosphere of today's world, unfortunately, the chances of any of us being involved in a mass shooting, active shooter scenario is actually a lot more prevalent than it was just a few years ago. As well as some of the stuff going on in the subcultures today with the rhetoric that is out there both politically in the big world as well as in the vampire world. It's not a stretch that somebody that's not mentally stable grabs that, wants to earn some brownie points, and walks into Endless Nights or something else and decides to start shooting, trying to get brownie points with the other side. So we're going to basically go over and cover. We're going to talk active shooters, kind of what you need to have in your head, where your brain needs to go in the event of an active shooter. We're going to go into some basic first aid. It's going to be a refresher for, I guarantee you, most of you guys. Daniel, who has been an RN since, Christ was a basic, is going to be doing a lot of our first aid. He's also a certified CPR instructor as well as first aid instructor. So we're just going to basically give people a refresher in your heads on what to do with some of the first aid. And that's some of the things, because one of the things psychologists have proven is that in an intensely stressful situation, your subconscious is going to immediately go looking for the files on that subject. And if those files aren't there, no matter how old they are, files aren't there, it's going to start searching for it and it's going to start to panic. And the biggest thing is we want to stop that panic instinct. Now, we've jokingly started calling this the Defense Against the Dark Arts class, so I think that's what we're going to keep, and you guys are now part of Dumbledore's army. Slither Pride.
We're right there with you.
So, one of the things we don't want to get locked into is definitions. If you go online, you start looking at definitions of active shooter, mass casualty shooting, that sort of things. Those definitions are only there for the law enforcement agencies and the news. That's what they're there for. It's how they decide the statistics on how many active shootings there are, that sort of thing. So if they're in their world, there's a difference between an active shooter in a school, active shooter in a park, gangland-related shooting, and a domestic violence gone horribly wrong. From our point of view, when that weapon comes out and it's time for it to go, you're not going to care about definitions. There's a weapons, lead is flying, people are dropping. At that point, definitions go right out the window. So, first and foremost, when stuff goes south, keep in mind we're going to talk a little bit different between this environment and being in a building. I'm also going to touch a little bit on those of us that are tour guides. What happens when we have the tour go down? Because now, unfortunately, I can go from firsthand experience from the other night. But first and foremost, the first main thing, be it in a park, in a building, pop, 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 things are going south. At this point, first and foremost, don't panic. Hit the ground. Figure out where your danger's at. Number one thing with this is don't rely on your ears. Your ears are going to get you in trouble. Keep in mind dynamics of sound. Having been in those situations, when you have somebody firing it's going to be very difficult for you to tell where the shots are coming from. Keep in mind, it's just like when I give my vampire tour. I want you guys to take every single thing Hollywood has ever taught you about a gunfight, and I want you to put it in a little ball, and I want you to put it in a box somewhere. All right? Hollywood does not have it right. That is not what a gunshot or shooting looks like. All right? There's a reason that John is one of our other fellow instructors, 20-year firefighter with Texas City Fire Department, that he actually started out one of his run reports as I waded through the sea of brass. Because that's why you'll see a lot of the videos now with officers, and they're doing what we call mag dumping. They're dumping their entire clip, because that entire fight is going to be over in 30 seconds, and they're not going to hit anything. It's going to be everything around it. So the first thing you need to do, get an eye on your target. Get an eye on where the danger is coming from. Because if you listen to just your ears, you're liable to run right smack dab into the shooter. Okay? Because your ears are telling you shots are coming from over here. You go to run over here, shooter's here. Now you're face to face with the shooter. All right? So don't listen to your ears. Hit the ground, start scanning, and I hate to say it this way, but it's true. Where are people dropping? Look for that going south, somebody walking and not looking right. Now on that note, let's back up for just half a second. I want to cover what we call being switched on. All right? In your day-to-day world, here in the park, you're going to the movies, you're going to the mall, you're going shopping. Pay attention to what's going on around you. You don't have to be super, turned on. You're not Sherlock Holmes. You're not going to say, oh, Sedna has some white dog fur on the side of her shirt. She has a white dog. That dog, there's a little gray on it, so that dog is probably, you don't have to do the Sherlock Holmes thing.
Yeah, he's old.
But pay attention to your surroundings. You're walking through a park. You're walking through the square. You see a guy walking through the square wearing a long trench coat. It's 90 degrees outside and 98% humidity. You might want to raise a flag that something's not right. Okay? Now, doesn't mean you have to go all the way over to, I'm going to go find a police officer, but mark that as, okay, and if those flags keep going, walk over and grab an officer. Don't be ashamed to get embarrassed if that guy's like, no, I just want to be gothy and I like my jacket. It's better to err on the side of caution than not to say something and have stuff go south. So we do it when we walk into movie theaters, and you don't even know you're doing it. Every single one of us, I'll guarantee you, when you walk into a theater, the first thing you're looking at, exit, 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 in case there's a fire or an emergency. You go to get on an aircraft, those flight attendants do it every single time. They all know we know where the doors are on the airplane. What they want is they want that in the front of your head, so if something does go south, it's right there for you to grab it. Exits are here, 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 and here. All right? Do the same thing when you're walking into your environment. All right? Here in the park, you're looking, kids playing, people barbecuing, having a good time. Look for anything that is out of place. All right? And a lot of times, in an active shooting situation, the survivors will tell you there were flags there that they picked up on, but they didn't say anything. They saw this individual pacing back and forth, talking to himself, trying to get his courage up to affect what he's getting ready to do. Or the person getting ready to come stormtrooping across the park looking for a specific target. You can tell those. You're going to pick up on that. That's what you're looking for. So in an outdoor environment like this, as we said, don't listen to your ears. Take cover. What you're going to be looking for in your cover is something solid. A tree, piece of concrete. Garbage cans, if that's all you got, it's better than laying out in the middle of the field. Take cover quickly, all right? Take a minute, take a breath. Again, like I said, look for your threat. Where's my threat coming from? Now, if you were pinned down, be it in an open area or in a building, at this point, take a second, reach down, grab your phone, put it to silent. Turn off anything on you that's going to make noise, especially if you're pinned down. We're getting ready to go into the 3 things that should run through your head, all right? Run, hide, fight, in that order, all right? The first thing is turn that ringer off on that phone. The last thing you want to do is to have a good concealed position, have the shooter walking past you, and now your phone goes off, all right? He's going to immediately turn and look for you, okay? Dial 911. Even if you can't talk, dial 911. Trust me, dispatchers are trained with that open line. They're going to be paying attention. 911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency? They're not going to hang up thinking it's a wrong number, all right? Especially they're trained to be listening into the background to hear what's going on in the background. Is there screaming? Is there shots fired? Because if you've never seen a dispatch center, what's going to happen is now that dispatcher is going to be saying on that phone line, and he is going to be writing notes and passing them to the dispatcher that is talking to those officers. And even if you have your phone set down beside you, if you don't have a Bluetooth in, you can still be saying, I'm at City Park. There's an active shooter. Start giving that intel as you can, because you are now giving what we call a sit rep to those officers coming in, so they have an idea of what they're walking into. All right? So try and get as much information as you can without putting yourself in danger. I've seen one shooter. There are people down. We're in City Park by Cafe Du Monde. I'm behind the blue garbage can. All right? They're going to be writing those notes down, and those are going to be going out to those officers. Now, one of the things I want people to keep in mind is that in that situation, keep in mind a normal average adult human will bleed out and die in under 5 to 8 minutes with an active bleed. All right? So it's going to take anywhere, depending on where those officers are at, anywhere from 4 to 10 minutes to even get to you. All right? And EMS, unless they have SWAT medics, tactical medics, EMS is going to stage away, and they are not going to come in until that scene is marked secured by law enforcement. So if you happen to be on that scene, unfortunately, you're in that position, you're it. You're going to be the one to make sure somebody goes home or not. So when the stuff starts to go south, what I want you guys in your head, I want a check-off sheet. Run, hide, fight. All right? First thing that should go through your head, run. All right? Do I have a clear exit? Where's my exit? All right? If you decide to run, it's not one of these run, 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 and run so you can't stop running anymore. Clear the area of danger to the best you can and stop. All right? At this point, contact 911. All right? Even if other people are on the phone, you as well contact 911. Try to keep other people from walking into what we call the hot zone. Keep in mind that situations are set up. General area where the event is happening is the hot zone. Then you have just out from that the warm zone and the cold zone. All right? Get out of the hot zone. Get to the edge of the warm zone if it is safe. Make your contact with 911. Talk to those officers. Let them know what's happening. Let the people around you know who are walking up. Hey, there's an active shooter. Stay out of the area. All right? Now you are being proactive. Now you're being part of the solution, not part of the problem. All right? After that, hide. You got run, can't run. Shooter's close to you, you're hit, you can't run. Now you're in the hide mode. All right? Find some place of concealment to hide. Now, a lot of times nowadays we don't like using the word concealment because keep in mind, Murphy has a sense of humor. And in the tactical environment, we have Murphy's Law. And one of Murphy's laws is if you can see the shooter, shooter can see you. All right? It's kind of like that game we all played when we were little kids or were parents and we have toddlers and they cover their eyes and we can't see you. The shooter can see you. All right? So keep a place where you're concealed but where you can still see what's going on around you. All right? Like we talked about a minute ago, Turn your phone on, dial 911 if you have to. Leave it open, all right? Those officers are hearing and listening, okay? If you have somebody close to you that's hit or wounded and you can come out of your concealment quickly and relatively safely, and keep in mind, y'all, as we talk, everything is, the word relative is going to be in what I'm saying. Nothing of this is going to be safe, okay? The word safe is now gone out the window. So if you can get to that person that's down close to you and get them and drag them back into safety where you can start working on it, do it. But make sure you don't give your position away if you can become a target for that shooter. If you have to, I hate to say it, if that person's laying there bleeding, you need to whisper and talk to them, hey, I'm right here. I'm not going to leave you. Sit there and inspire them that you're not alone. I'm right here. As soon as I can move, I'm going to get to you, as long as it's not putting you in danger. All right? Very last one, fight. And guys, I'm going to be straight up and honest with you. If you've clicked off the run, the hide, and you are now hitting the toggle for fight, it's on. At this point, all rules are out the window, period. You are now in a fight for your life. And keep in mind, y'all, in most of the active shooter situations that we've had, unfortunately, happen in the past couple of years, a lot of those shooters were taken down by people in the environment. They finally had a group of them together, finally said, you know what, we're going to end this. And to quote somebody rather famous on a flight a couple of years ago, back in 2001, let's roll. And at that point, your safety, just set it for an example, me sitting here. I've got a park full of kids. All right? If that was to happen right now, I know everybody sitting here in front of me, we're going to come up with a plan, and we're going to take the threat out, even if it means some of us are dropping. All right? But when you hit that fight, it's all go, no stop. Look around you for what you can use as a weapon. Fire extinguishers, big long sticks, your car keys. Do what? Big rocks. Take those car keys, put them in your hand, and wrap them. Because keep in mind, at this point, you don't want this individual walking away. You'll notice the police department gets a lot of crap for shootings where people, oh, why did they have to mag dump on this person? Because those are officers are trained to nauseam. If that target, that threat is still moving, you mitigate the threat. You keep going until the threat is neutralized. If it's still moving, you're still going. As soon as they stop, you'll see the officers drop their mag away because now that target has been neutralized. Same thing in a fight. You go until that threat has been neutralized. And you have to make that play in your head, all right? And the only way you're going to do that is taking that couple of seconds to go, okay, what am I working with? Because what happens in those situations is everything does this. You're becoming hyper-focused. Everything slows down, the world kicks in, and you're now, that fight or flight is kicking in. You're having a dump of adrenaline, and you're going to be super focused on what's going on. Take a second to have that fog start to open back up so you can start paying attention to what's around you. All right? Do not allow yourself to become what we call combat ineffective. The second you freak out, the second you start to panic, you are now combat ineffective. All right? And you'll run into a situation, and all of a sudden, you're knee-deep into it, and if you'd have taken half a second to let that fold out, okay, I still have threats here and here. I don't need to run to that person right here. One of the things that we are trained on as first responders is as you're coming into your scene, you analyze everything about that scene. And trust me, what you are dispatched for and what you get when you get on scene are two completely different books. All right? And it's not that dispatcher's fault. It's just the dynamic of how that goes. So if it's that bad for trained professionals who do this every single day, just imagine what it is for those of us that are general public, okay? Your scene is going to be changing constantly, all right? Now, Here in a couple minutes, like I said, we're going to get into some of the first aid portions of this, but I also wanted to go into from the point of view of a door kicker. All right? So you're in a building, you're here in a park. Stuff's gone bad. You are locked down in that position. You're waiting for law enforcement to get here. I want to give you guys just a little bit of a taste what it's going to look like when those first-in officers come in. All right? Now, if you've never seen us in tactical gear, the whole point is to be scary. All right? You're going to see full tactical vests. You're going to be seeing stuff like this. Helmets, baklavas. They're going to be toting weapons. They're going to be up, and as they're coming in, they're going to be scanning everything. Yeah, you're going to look just like stormtroopers hitting. And what they're doing is what's called a dynamic entry. They want to hit hard, hit fast, look for that threat, and they want to neutralize that threat. So if you happen to be hiding behind a tree, hiding behind a desk, you're there in the middle of the floor. As those officers come in, those first-in officers, first thing they're going to be doing is you're going to get a muzzle aimed at you. The best thing you can do at this point, again, calm, hands up, fingers out. All right? This right here is the biggest threat to an officer. You'll always hear them if you ever watch any of the videos. Show us your hands, show us your hands, show us your hands. These are the most dangerous part on the human body. Have those hands up. If you have to, you're sitting there just like this, all right? They know you're a victim, all right? But they have to get through who are my targets, who are my victims, all right? Because it's not uncommon for a shooter to masquerade themselves as one of the victims. And I'm sure you guys have all seen it from the Columbine shootings, any of the unfortunate school shootings we've had. You see the kids being ushered out. All of them are ushered out, their hands up, because those officers are going to tell them as they're coming out, keep your hands up, keep your hands up, keep your hands up, until they can pat them down and make sure they're not carrying weapons and they're not part of the problem. And those officers are going to be yelling. A lot of times, if you're in an inside position, out here they'll do it as well, but inside, it'll definitely get your attention, is flashbangs will come in through the door. And trust me, if you've never been on the receiving end of a flashbang, it's a ride, all right? It's going to be very bright, very loud, very noisy, and it's terrifying. That's the point. Do not rush that officer, all right? Those officers are already jacked up. The scene is not secure. They're trying to clear and make sure where they can find where the threat is at. Do not rush that officer, all right? You're liable to get two in the chest if you're not careful, because they're looking for a shooter. They're looking for somebody attacking them. Stay calm. Those officers are going to be shouting orders as they come through. Stay where you are, stay where you are, stay where you are. And if that stick is coming in, there's going to be more officers coming in behind them whose job it is to take care of the wounded, take care of the people here. Like I said, EMS is going to be staged blocks away. They're not coming in until that scene is secure. So if you can say, I'm a paramedic, I'm an RN, I'm first aid CPR trained, 9 times out of 10, as those officers pass through the area and they've cleared that area, they're going to tell you, start giving aid, and they're going to keep going. All right? At that point, now you are free to be able to move because those officers are going to clear that area. Now it's up to you to really step into that stop the bleed. Because as a former tactical medic, all right, if I came in with the stick, my primary job at that point are those officers, okay? I'm going to be looking, I'm going to be triaging as I'm going. And we're going to go in just a little bit. When Daniel starts talking here in a minute, we're going to be talking a little bit of triage and that sort of thing. But no, you guys stopping the bleed will quadruple somebody's chance of going home, all right? So that's one of the reasons we want to start this class and do this class. And like I said, guys, I'm not here to teach you how to be door kickers. I'm not here to teach you how to be paramedics. Just here for this basic level. And I'm sure most of you guys have been through these types of classes before, first aid classes, CPR classes, that sort of thing. It's just refreshing it, hitting some key points in your head for, if, God forbid, and you guys ever happen to be in the situation. The other night, 9:30 bus tour. Do it every single night, all right? Every single night. All of a sudden, within 20 seconds, I'm now in the middle of an active shooting situation. Now, was there an active shooter on scene walking still shooting people? No. Come to find out, it was a gang hit is what they're telling us now. No, we talked about definitions. He's still firing off rounds in front of my busload of 25 tourists. We got blocked in. We could not leave. The bus could not move. All right? And when we first rolled up at that point, we didn't even know it was a shooting. All right? Because we didn't hear the shots. We were so close, we never heard the gunfire. All of a sudden, we're rolling up. We've got a kid down in the middle of the street, lady doing CPR on the kid, multiple victims walking around covered in blood. My driver took care of my tourists because we couldn't move, and those of us that were trained went out to the bus to go help. All right? And to give you an idea, I've been out of the game 10 years. All right? I'm retired. I don't do this anymore. Saw somebody giving CPR. My first instinct, auto pedestrian. I got a truck. Got a kid on the street. He got hit. There's glass around him. Somebody hit him. Because we have homeless that walk up and down that road right there all the time. Somebody hit him. So as I come running up, I go to my knees. I go and relieve her on chest compressions because she is very obviously starting to strain. She's getting tired. You know, count of 3, I'm taking over. 1, 2, 3. I take over chest compressions, do all my stuff for CPR. In my head, I'm still working in auto pay. She says, I can't find an exit wound. First time I realize I'm now in a shooting situation. 1, 2, what? And I start looking around and realize I have shell casings all around me. So now I'm in a completely different scene than what I saw when I walked up. So that's how quick it can even happen to somebody who is actually has that training, how fast you can get into a situation that's not what your eyes and brain originally told you it was. So, and please guys, ask questions. Like I said, this is a very impromptu. I am dusting off years of dust to bring this to you guys. Daniel's going to get in here and start doing some of the first aid side of what we're going to be doing. And we're going to be doing, there's actually, well, I'm going to be posting online for you guys watching at home. We're going to be posting in the video down below some of the links to some of the stuff Department of Homeland Security is starting to put out, American Heart, and those agencies are putting out. One of the big ones is Stop the Bleed. And we're going to talk here in just a little bit about some of the myths about using tourniquets and that sort of thing that we are trying to get out of the general public's head that are misconceptions of the gear and stuff we use. After Daniel talks just a little bit, then we're going to go into some of our bags and go into some of the gear that we carry and some of the blowout bags and stuff that I carry even on tour or that you can carry in the bags you carry so you have stuff there just in case. And then we will also go into a little bit more stuff as far as tour guides, what we can do with our people, because there was a couple of things that happened that night. No shaming, no pointing fingers and waggling at people, learning. If it's not a learning situation where we can learn from the mistakes we made, then that 17-year-old kid died for no reason. And that's the other reason I want to do this is I know in my heart of hearts I wasn't bringing that kid back. But I knew his family was sitting right there.
All right, y'all, I'm Daniel. Just a little back on me. Navy 8 years, I was a corpsman, combat medic. I was field medical trained, also EMS. I'm also a nurse, first aid CPR qualified, and instructor. Like Cedric said earlier, we're going to roll into the first aid with this. So first we're going to start out with the different types of bleed. Different types of bleed that we can have, we have 2. We have venous and we have arterial. Now the difference between venous and arterial is venous will ooze and just come out slowly. Arterial will spray and come out quick. Why is that important? Venous bleeds are easy to control. Arterial bleeds are hard to control. Now we all have this natural reaction. If we get cut off, we get hurt. The first thing that we do is we grab it. We grab that cut, we grab that wound. That is a natural ingrained reaction for us. That is beautiful. That's the first thing that you ever want to do for a cut, for a wound. You want to apply that direct pressure. Direct pressure is how we're going to stop a bleed. Direct pressure with a venous bleed shouldn't take too long. We can hold on there for a few minutes. Now, if it happens to be a very bad venous bleed and it starts bleeding through, we will reinforce it with a second dressing. We will put that second dressing on there, but we will never, I'll repeat this, we will never remove the first dressing. Because as we're holding the pressure on that wound, we're clotting it. We're building up a clot. Even though it hasn't completely stopped, we still have a clot building. If we remove that first dressing, we're going to remove all the work that we've done, and we're starting back from zero. So you apply that first dressing, you're going to hold pressure. If it stops, great, bandage it. If it doesn't, reinforce it. Put the second dressing on there. Continue to hold pressure. If it happens to bleed through the second one, put a third one on there. Then the next thing you want to do is raise that wound above the level of the heart. That's going to help slow the blood flow down and help start clotting. If it continues to bleed through, we now have what we call pressure points. These are areas on the body where the arteries run close to the skin that we can actually apply pressure and help slow down the bleed. A few pressure points that we have. We have brachial that's underneath the arm and also right here in the bicep. We have the femoral for the legs that run right here on the inner thigh. All right, and we have the popliteal, which runs across the back of the knee. These are the areas that we can apply pressure to the wound. It's above the wound. If the wound is down on the bottom part of the leg, we can apply it back here. If the wound is down on the lower part of the arm, we can apply it here. If it's higher up on the arm, we can go into the armpit. These are pressure points, so we'll direct pressure above the level of the heart. If that don't work, we can go ahead and do the pressure point. If it continues to bleed past that, if you're there that long, then you may want to look at a tourniquet. A tourniquet is your last option. A tourniquet is you're actually going to stop the blood flow completely to that wound. There's controversy over tourniquets. Some people, you would say they want you to put it a couple inches above where the wound is. The newest stuff, what they say is high and tight. High on the extremity and tight. Reason for this is you're going to slow down the blood flow. It's generally hard to get right there. You don't know where it's at. If they have long sleeves on, if they have pants on, if you can't get to that, you don't know exactly where it's at, you tie it high and tight. Also, we're talking about being shot. Bullets don't go straight through all the time. They don't follow a straight path. They may hit a bone. They may reflect. They bounce around. You don't know. They may get shot here and it come out over here. You don't know where the exit wound is or if they even have one. So we go high and tight to stop the bleed with the tourniquet. So to recap, direct pressure above the level of the heart. Apply that pressure if you need to. If that does not work, then you can go ahead and go with the tourniquet. Now when we're talking about multiple casualties, or if they have a wound that is obviously bleeding out very quickly, maybe they got shot in the leg and they are bleeding profusely from the femoral artery. It's just pooling out. You don't have time to put pressure and go through it. You may jump straight to a tourniquet. If you have multiple casualties, you have a person here that has a gunshot wound to the leg and they're bleeding out from femoral artery. You have another person that has a sucking chest wound. You're going to have to triage through these people. When you come on scene and when you start looking at them, you have to look at your efficiency. Who can you treat the fastest, who's the worst, and move on to the next person? Unfortunately, when we roll into a multiple casualty situation, you may have, say we have 3 people down, gunshot wound, femoral bleed, sucking chest wound, and then somebody over there and they've actually been shot in the head and they are not breathing. The person that's not breathing, we're not going to treat. If you check them and we have multiple casualties and they do not have a pulse or they're not breathing, you will move to the next person. You're going to save who you can save. They're alive, you're going to move to them. So if you have those 3 people, my first choice personally, I'd probably roll up onto the person that has a femoral bleed. Why? I can throw a tourniquet on them in about 30 seconds. Tie off that bleed, move next to the next person that has a sucking chest wound. Slap a bandage on that. Then move to my person that's not breathing and then take care of them. Because the problem with that is once you start CPR or once you start taking care of a person, you cannot leave them until you're done taking care of them. Multiple casualties, tourniquet's done, he's not bleeding, I can move on. Sucking chest wounds been taken care of, I can move on. If I start with that man that does not have a pulse and is not breathing, I cannot leave him until somebody relieves me. I'm stuck there. My other 2 people is probably going to die. It's all about efficiency. Who's hurt the most and who can you treat the fastest is what you look at for a triage situation. So I'm bringing Cedric out here. Come on, Mr. Cedric. Right here next to me is fine. Just go ahead and you can stand up first. So we're just going to demonstrate applying direct pressure and just doing a very simple wrap. So something easy bleed. Of course, I'm going to put on my gloves. If you have gloves or if you don't have them, you may want to think about carrying a pair with you. I always do. And I'm going to work with what we call cravats or triangular bandages. They're small. They come in plastic packing. They're small squares. You can put them pretty much anywhere. Say Cedric has a wound on his arm and he's bleeding. He has now grabbed it himself, so while he's holding it, I can go ahead and get my stuff out because he's holding it, and I can go ahead and put that direct pressure on there. When I put direct pressure, I'm going to use my fingers to put as much pressure as I can on there. Hold it on there for a few minutes. If it bleeds through, second dressing is going to go on there. Did not remove it. Continue to hold it. Continues to bleed, we're going to raise it above the level of the heart. It continues to bleed, pressure on the brachial artery. If it continues to bleed, we'll go tourniquet high and tight up here, almost to his shoulder, where his bicep meets his shoulders, where we'll go at. We'll tie it there. But let's say I get it under control. Let him hold it because he has an able-bodied hand. Take my cravat. Some people, they'll set it down and fold it and everything all nice and pretty. You just kind of twist it. You get nice and thick. It's about 2 inches. You're going to go above it, wrap it around a few times, nice and tight, and then when you tie your knot, you want it actually on the wound because that's where it's going to put the most pressure. Tie it down, put your second knot in it. Tie it down, you move on to your next patient. You can continue to hold it. Now we're going to move on to a tourniquet. Once again, I will use a cravat because you can buy these. You also can go and you can buy the actual tourniquets that you can find. Need something simple, rigid, and something to actually wrap around it. So we're going to go with the arm first. We're going to go high and tight. Right here where his bicep is, where his bicep meets his shoulder, you make a muscle, you're actually going to have that groove. That's where you're going at. You're going to tie it down. Tie it knot as tight as you can. Another knot. Take your rigid item. And then all you're going to do is twist. You're going to continue to twist till it's tight. Once it's tight, take your tails, tie it down, and it's secured. Move on to your next patient. For the femoral artery, for the leg. Get this off of you. You don't mind laying down, sir? For the leg, if someone's laying down, a lot of people, they may try to pick up that leg or whatever, but if someone's leg's down, you have a natural gap between your knee. Take your tourniquet, slide it under the knee, work your way up as high as you can get it. Once again, same. Tie a knot. Tie a knot. Off to the side. Twist it till the bleed stops. Tie it down with your tails. Move on to your next person. Take this out of this way. Cedric. All right. You can stay laying down. Now, if you come across someone that's down, you have one person, two person, three people, how are you going to find the wound? You come up with somebody, first thing you're going to look to see if they're breathing. We're assuming the scene is safe because you're moving around. You're going to come up to the person, first thing you look to see if they're breathing. If you have multiple casualties and he's not breathing, move on to your next person. If he is breathing, you can do a quick assessment. We call it a quick blood sweep. You have your gloves on, and what you're looking for is life-threatening bleed. I'm going to sweep his head. Look at my hand. If I have a copious amount of blood on my hand, I'm going to look for the wound and treat it. After that, check his chest, blood, arms, blood, run it down. Each leg, I'm going to run it down, checking for blood. Every time I'm going to look at my hands, because if I go all the way down his body and look and I got blood, where'd it come from? Section it off. Head, chest, back, arm, pelvis, leg. Every time look at your hands to see if you have blood. If you come across a life-threatening wound, he's bleeding, direct pressure. Grab your stuff and start putting it on. See if you can control it. If it's here in his leg, if he's bleeding profusely, you got more than one person, you may want to go to a tourniquet. If you come across someone may have a sucking chest wound, if they happen to get shot, a sucking chest wound means that the chest was penetrated, whether it be from a gun, whether it be from a knife, whatever, sharp object. The chest is a negative pressure environment. So whenever it gets punctured, it will suck, and you will hear it. If you come across it, now generally a chest wound, a sucking chest wound is not going to bleed a lot. So whenever you do your blood sweep, You're not going to get a lot of blood for it. When you come back, it's just not very venous. Just unless they hit a major artery, which is kind of hard to do, they're not going to bleed a whole bunch. Plus, it's generally sucking it in. It's kind of keeping it from coming out. So it won't be a whole bunch of blood. You will have blood, but it won't be a lot like life-threatening. And that's okay because it's generally going to take a while for that lung to deflate. Because now that you've punctured that negative pressure environment, every time that he exhales, he's going to suck air into his chest cavity, and his lung is going to slowly collapse. So you're going to have more than enough time to treat all his life-threatening injuries and then come back to that chest wound. Now, there's controversy with the chest wounds. Some people say leave it open. They do make actual bandages for it that actually have a valve in it. If you happen to buy one of those that have the valve, that little valve that's on there, goes directly over the wound. And it allows air to be pushed out but not go in. It's a one-way valve. But if we do it and I'm checking him and I did everything else and I find out that he does have a chest wound and I'm not going to pull up his chest because I have a feeling that he sparkles in the sunlight, we want to expose it. With my hand right? We would expose it. Now what I would do, you want to grab something that's plastic, anything. And whatever the wound is, you want it about 2 inches from the diameter of the edge of the wound. Cut it, tear it, whatever you got. Put it on there. Then you're going to tape 3 of the sides. 1 side, 2 side, 3 side. You can leave that 3rd side open because what the plastic's going to do is when he exhales, it's going to stick to the chest and not allow air to go in. When he inhales and his chest expands, if he has any air or even blood in there, it will push it out that wound and allow it to come out. So you would tape 3 sides, leaving the 1 side open that's over the wound with a 2-inch diameter over each of the sides. Once you got him treated, move to the next one if you got anybody else.
One little subject on tourniquets. There's a lot of discussion out there nowadays trying to get rid of the misconceptions that a lot of people have about tourniquets. That the second you put on a tourniquet, that person's going to lose that limb. That is not the case. You can leave that tourniquet on for well up to 2 hours, and they will be able to still have complete and total usage. So don't let that, oh, if I put this tourniquet on, I just took this kid's leg. That's not the case. If you don't put that tourniquet on, they're going to be a dead body. So, in doubt, put it on there. In my bags, I've got a permanent marker. You've got, most of us have pins either on us or in our bags, that sort of thing. If you put a tourniquet on, especially if it's a chaotic situation, and like Daniel said, you're going to be going from person to person, or you're going to be escorted out of the area to a safe area, right. Tourniquet, put applied, write a time on there. Yeah, take and dip your finger in the blood. Because the other thing, too, is you'll see us a lot of times is, as Daniel was saying, when we're doing our primary patient assessments, we get to an area, we're going to start cutting close. I want to get that wound open where I can get to it. And if there's a tourniquet, especially if it is in a hectic situation where there's multiple patients, you're in the active shooter kind of situation, like Daniel just said, dip your finger in the blood, put T on their head. That way, when those medics are coming in, they see he's got a T on his head. Where's the tourniquet? Okay, he's got a tourniquet there. All right, you're giving those medics more information as they're coming in. All right, guys, so real quick, as we've been covering different stuff throughout this video, one of the questions I can already hear you guys shooting at me from the ether world is, we don't carry a bunch of stuff on us when we're doing things in our day-to-day world. So what on the street can we grab? Think outside the box. Look at your environment. Right now, stop for half a second. Look around you and where you're looking at. If you're looking at this on your phone, on your computer, but just look around you what you have. All right, y'all. So going into, like we discussed, sucking chest wounds, that sort of thing, grab stuff around you. There's always potato chip bags you see laying around, pieces of plastic on the ground, pamphlets that are all over the quarter that you can grab and use in a pinch if you need to. A lot of times, some people hand out business cards that are done in a bigger, with a glossy cover on them. Those will work wonders as well. You tape 3 sides of it. Now you have what is called an occlusive dressing. All right, you just made that sucking chest wound dressing off of the stuff around you. The biggest thing, think outside the box. What can you use? In the situations that we're talking about, you are not in a clinical environment. You're not worried about sterility, all right? You are in the field. It's going to, like we always joke about in the military, rub some dirt on it, all bleeding will stop eventually. Put some dirt on it. We say it as a joke, but it's got a point in truth. Look around you, see what you've got to use. It's time for you to use up brain power of yours and think outside the box, because that might be the difference if somebody goes home or not. All right, so now we're going to step into you're in the situation where now you've got the ability and the time to actually start to deploy CPR. I'm going to pass it back over to Daniel for the CPR portion.
Yay. Woo, yay, Daniel.
You're amazing, Cedric. All right, y'all, for CPR. All right, CPR, of course, the person is not breathing. They don't have a heartbeat. First thing you want to do, you see it, you're going to check their pulse, carotid artery. Right here, it's not Gray's Anatomy. It's not way over here. It's right next to their trachea, right next to their throat. It's right here. Everyone has a groove. That's where it's at on either side. You're going to check their pulse and feel for that, and you're going to look at their chest to see if they're breathing. It may be dark outside. Cedric was outside. It was dark. There was no light. You can even put the hand on the chest to see if they're breathing so you can actually feel it. If they're breathing, they have a pulse. They're not going to breathe and not have a pulse. If they're breathing, they have a pulse, you don't need to do CPR. You can move on and see what else you need to do. Maybe just put them in a recovery position. But if they're not breathing and they have no pulse, you'll begin with CPR. CPR is always started with chest compressions. 30 to 2. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. Whenever you do your chest compressions, you want the palm of your hand in the center of their chest on the lower portion. You don't want to go too low. You don't want to go too high. You want it in the center of their chest. When you do that, you want to get as close as possible to the person, because what you're going to use is your body weight to compress the chest. Hand on the chest. Interlock your fingers. Bring yourself up over your hands. Lock your elbows and shoulders out, and you will go straight down as hard as you can. You want to go at least 2 inches. When you go down, most people do not go deep enough. You will start doing it, and you won't go deep enough. As you go, get deep. You want to go hard, you want to go deep. When you go deep, do not be surprised if you break ribs. It will happen. If you're going deep enough, you're more than likely you will break ribs. Don't stop. The person's not breathing. They don't have a heartbeat. They are dead. If you don't do this, they are not going to live. You can't make them more dead. Hands on the chest, chest compressions. 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. If you happen to have a barrier device, be a mask, be it a face shield, you have it on them, you can give mouth to mouth. If you don't have one, you can give mouth to mouth, but that's up to you. If you don't have a barrier device, you don't have to give mouth to mouth. You don't have to give breaths. You can continue with chest compressions. You want to do 100 to 120 compressions a minute. If you do the math, that is 1.5 to 2 compressions per second. If you have a mask or if you have a barrier device and you can give them breath, if you have the mask, you're going to do what they call an EC technique. Mask goes on the face, tilt the head back, you'll blow into the mask. If you have a face shield, it just goes over the face, and you're literally going to give them, it's just like giving them mouth to mouth. Head tilt, chin lift. Hand goes on the forehead, fingers go underneath the chin. Tilt the head back slightly, pinch the nose, and you're going to give them a breath. Just enough to see the chest rise. Second breath. Then back to compressions. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. You will attempt 2 breaths. Some people get stuck. They give a breath that don't go in. They give a breath that doesn't go in. They give a breath that doesn't go in. Don't do that. 30 compressions. Head tilt, chin lift, give the breath. If it doesn't go in, reposition the head. Give your second breath. If it doesn't go in, back to chest compression. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So just to show you, normally when you have more than one person, if you have 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, you can rotate through it. You generally want to go 5 cycles or about 2 minutes, and then switch out, because CPR is extremely tiring. And the more you do it, the more tired you're going to get, and the more that your form is going to suffer, and the less effective it's going to be. So if you have the ability to switch out every 2 minutes, you'd want to do that. So remember, 30 compressions, and I'm going to go through just a whole cycle. 1, 2, 3. Always count out loud. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Give 2 breaths. Breaths should take you less than 10 seconds. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Head to a chin lift. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 2 breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Get 2 breaths. Last cycle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. At this time, I could say at the end of the cycle, switch out. 28, 29, 30. I'll get my 2 breaths. The next person would take over, and I'd get the rest. Any questions about CPR? Child, if it's 1 man, 30 to 2. It only changes when it comes into 2 man. When you have somebody giving a breath and somebody actually doing the compression, then it's 15 to 2. Infants, with infants, you don't do chest compressions. You do your 2 fingers, center to their chest, and it's 30 compressions, 2 breaths if it's by yourself. If you have somebody else giving it with you, which is an infant, you can do it by yourself. 30 to 2, if it's 2 man, 15 to 2. Good question. Anything else? Yeah, what? Oh, there's no dumb questions. Just keep going. If you lose count and you think, hey, I need to give a breath, give 2 breaths.
All right, guys. As we said at the starting of the video, this is a very, very top of the iceberg kind of discussion. The whole point was to engage thinking. Refresh those skills that you've already learned. If you haven't, go take a CPR course. Go take a first aid course. If you hadn't had one in years, go grab one. It's good to refresh on. Even field paramedics have to go through refreshers all the time. Same thing with RNs. Always doing continuing education to keep it fresh in your head. So guys, I hope by whatever's listening, you never have to put any of these into actual using them in the situation. But if that time does go, rely on yourself, believe in yourself. The verse puts you there for a reason. Capitalize, do your best, and we'll be having more videos coming out down the road. And until then, see you guys out there. Captain Whittaker here in the great city of New Orleans. See you guys out there. Be safe, y'all. Let us know down in the comments down below what your favorite takeaway from these videos was.
Can you see me?
Yep.
All right.
You like
That's all we're here for. It's the bro code, man. We got to encourage each other.
There you go. A little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Mother Nature.
Step, 1 step to your right. That's perfect.
Step with it.
That's going. You get that on film? There you go.
Shit.